I had the insurance renewal through today for the F-Type, and I nearly choked on my coffee when I opened that email. Let's go for a drive and let's have a bit of a talk. So anybody who owns, operates, drives a car in the UK will not be unaware of the increasing cost of insurance at the moment. It's bonkers. It's getting a little bit out of control. Yes, I'll probably make a rod for my own back a little bit in the cars I choose to drive. However, when you look at it as a percentage of increase and look at it relatively, it's starting to get a little bit painful. So why is the price of insurance increasing? In my opinion, it's a number of factors. I think the standard of driving is decreasing. People are becoming more and more reliant on driving aids, which gives a sense of complacency, I guess, relying on the car to do a lot of the hard work in avoiding accidents. Couple that with the fact that modern cars are just so expensive, it's ridiculous. So if you take an old Ford Fiesta, like the Mark II Ford Fiesta, or my first car, I had a Mark III Ford Astra, there's very little in there to go wrong. It had single point electronic fuel injection. It was one of the first cars of its age without a choke. And it was just cheap to repair. I remember somebody drove into the front of it, and I bought a new wing painted from Vauxhall for £70. Now granted, that was, crikey, 16 years ago, but it was cheap. To buy a new wing for this is going to be about £300 from Jaguar, plus paint on top. Then you've got to fit it as well. Look at headlights, for example. If you're involved in a front-end crash, bit of a ding-dong, chances are you are going to break some headlights. It's just they're stuck on the front of the car, they're up there, they're in the way of damage. New headlights on this car from Jaguar per pair are going to set you back north of £5,000 for a pair of headlights. Same goes for things such as doors. You know, a door's not just a door anymore. It's full of sensors, it's got blind spot monitors, it's got harnesses for wing mirrors that heat and fold. You've got folding door mirrors, you've got puddle lights, window regulators. I dread to think the cost of replacing a door if someone drove into the side of the car. So from an insurance perspective, there's risk, and the higher the cost to repair the car, that's going to heighten one of the risk factors they use to calculate your insurance. So if I was involved in a front-end crash in my tin pot Vauxhall Astra I had at the age of 17, I could probably repair that car for a couple of £100. And in fact, I did do that with one of my older Peugeots. However, if I was involved in a front-end crash in this, the chances are it could well write off the car, and then the insurance company are going to have to pay me out a cash alternative to repairing this car. So that's all got to be factored into the cost of business for the insurance companies, which is pushing premiums sky high. Now, couple that with the increase in car theft. Gone are the days, well, they're not gone, but they've certainly advanced from the days where a thief would smash your window, hotwire your car, there's no immobiliser, and they drive off having cracked the steering lock through brute force. Those days aren't around anymore. It's very advanced computer systems and hacking with laptops, which goes way over my head. I wouldn't have a clue what I'm doing. I'm not a car thief, funnily enough. So the increasing car theft for what's classed as luxury cars has increased dramatically. Cars are being stolen to order, being shipped abroad, and that's factored into a lot of the problems with the Range Rover insurance debacle that's happening at the moment. And I've done a video on that. Check it out if you haven't already. So this is all just pushing insurance prices sky high. So let's talk about the cost of insurance. Last year, I was paying £1,200 a year to insure this car, and yeah, that's quite a chunk. But I've got some bits on there I don't really need, but I'm not willing to compromise on. One of them is legal protection. If any of you catch me over a beer sometime, I'll tell you why I'm a big advocate of legal protection on your insurance, but that's another conversation. And another thing that is absolutely necessary is Mrs. GB's insured on this car. And when we got it, she was 27. We've had it 3 years, yes. So she's 30 this year. She was 27. Now, a 27-year-old bombing around in a 550 horsepower car, I guess, is quite a high risk to insurance companies, undoubtedly. So that had a factor to play as well. So my insurance premium was £1,200 last year. And I woke up this morning, got my laptop out, started doing some work over my coffee, and my insurance premium this year is £2,500 if I stay with the same insurer that I've been with since we got the car. Gave them a call. Nope, sorry, that's the best we can do. We're not willing to improve on our price. So there's quite a consideration to be had there as to, am I going to keep this car? You know, can I justify and can I stomach, can I sustain £2,500 a year in insurance? Do I want to do that? And what does that mean for the future of this car? Luckily, a bit of shopping around on some comparison websites, and I'm back down to about £1,200 again. So it's not gone down, it's not gone up, but I'm net neutral and probably within a few pounds of where I was last time round. So when you look at the increases of what they would justify as industry fluctuations, so the cost of sale for insurance has gone up significantly. When you look at RPI or CPI, whatever they're using, inflation effectively, to calculate their insurance, you've got to factor that in. I'm taking it as a win. I've effectively halved my potential premium. But crikey, that was a heck of a hike. Had I not shopped around and had I not gone with an alternative supplier and just let it tick over on renewal, that would have been a heck of a cost to bear. Now, if you factor that in with the increased cost in tax, so tax has now gone up to, I believe, £725 or £730 a year on this car, it just makes no sense. So anyone who's watching from the UK will be all too familiar with probably congestion charging, depending on where you live in the UK. ULEZ, this car is ULEZ compliant, so it's deemed economic enough in one sense to be ULEZ compliant, ultra low emission zone within London and the home counties and boroughs around London, but it's deemed inefficient enough to have quite an unappealing tax bracket there. And these are all things that if you're buying or have recently bought or still have an F-Type, you need to factor into your ongoing costs and expenditure, because it's got to come from somewhere, right? And the cost of living is only going one way. Am I going to get rid of this car? No, it's very unlikely. I love it. The smile it puts on your face every time you get into it. It holds a special place for us as well. It was our wedding car. We got wrapped up in the middle of COVID with all of the restrictions, so our wedding was non-existent. It was 10 people we managed to have in the end, and I'm effectively driving what's left of the wedding. So from that standpoint, it's got quite an emotional tie. The only reason I would get rid of this car is to fund the sale, or to sell it, to fund the purchase of another vehicle another time. And it would have to be a significant upgrade to make that worthwhile. However, you know, there probably will come a time where I need to make a pretty hard decision. If the cost of running this keeps going up, fuel prices are going up, maintenance is going up, tax is going up, insurance is going up, the car's depreciating, so everything is doing that, there needs to be a pretty sensible, level-headed decision made at some point and take the emotion out of that as to if it's actually worth keeping the car. We do 3,000 miles a year in this car. On a good year, it goes abroad, does a couple of continental road trips. So when you look at it that way, pound per mile, how much is it costing us to run? It's probably quite a lot. But that's a decision for another day. For today, I'm just going to enjoy the car. So there are my insights into the insurance of the Jaguar F-Type. This is the 5 litre version. That could all be entirely different for the 3 litre, the 2 litre or the SVR, but hopefully it's proved beneficial in giving some insight into the costs of insuring this car, what's involved with it, and how to try and reduce your premiums a little bit. Don't get stung like I would have done had I not shopped around. Quite literally, my premium would have doubled overnight had I done nothing. So make sure you're acting smart, getting out there, getting comparisons and shopping around. But anyway, thanks for watching another video, guys. If you haven't already, do drop a sub by hitting the button down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Older Peugeots. However, if I was involved in a front end... Hello, mate. Okay. Interesting. So that van cut me up so hard, he set off my parking sensors. If I was involved in a front end crash...